is Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition for the games on Thursday, January 1st, going all the way to Monday, January 5th. I am Bob McDonald, and joining me is my co-host, Jim Sarro.
Hey, Bob. A lot has changed since I talked to you last. The league
Just a little.
thrown into a tizzy. Every team is still in it, and I can't wait to talk about this week's batch of games.
Absolutely. And of course, the Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition is sponsored by the Horizon League, which reminds you to make your plans to be in Indy March 8th through the 10th for the 2026 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get all the insights from us here at the Horizon Roundtable, visit horizonleague.com for championship information, merchandise, Life in the League stories, golden hour content, and much more. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. And let's go ahead and get started ringing in the new year at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's Oakland playing Youngstown State, and both of these teams had a little bit of a rough go in their last conference games. Oakland is a little bit more than Youngstown State. Youngstown State lost at home against Detroit Mercy, and Oakland ran into kind of a buzzsaw against Wright State. I feel like this is definitely a game that for both of these teams a little more evenly matched. I think there's a lot top to bottom. I think there's a lot more. There's definitely a lot of intrigue. I think the concern on both ends, especially after the Monday game loss, Oakland's Monday losses, they definitely couldn't get things going offensively. Youngstown State was also having some issues on that front as well. So this is going to be a bounce back game for one of them.
Yeah, that was, this is supposed to be like a marquee matchup, and here it is. Two teams trying to get out of the middle of the pack in league play after disappointing losses to, restart the conference play. Stylistically, though, you have Oakland, tons of scoring, Youngstown, pretty good defense. Both teams are, pretty good amount of big guys. So this will be an interesting game to watch because, what Oakland does well, Youngstown can kind of match, but like the way they want to get to the final result is probably completely different. So I still think it's a marquee matchup, even though it's two teams that are currently sitting in the middle of the standings that we probably thought were going to be at the top of the standings.
All right, so let's move on to we have 2 p.m. Eastern games. Let's start out with the game that actually is a marquee matchup. The Milwaukee going to the Nether Center to play Wright State. Wright State, I don't know if you noticed, is really good at home. You kind of beat up on Oakland and beat up on Green Bay, and they're really good at home. And they're going up against a Milwaukee team who really beat up on Purdue Fort Wayne. And the big key in that game, it was the rebounding, because Milwaukee just absolutely out rebounded Purdue Fort Wayne. I don't think they're going to have that level of advantage against Wright State, because Wright State had a really good, definitely had a really good game on the boards.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fascinating game to watch. You have two teams that are, playing physically, that, try to have some level of their calling card being on defense. Wright State's done a really good job of that. Milwaukee's been able to outscore, some of the weaker teams with their up-tempo style. So we'll see what comes of this. Milwaukee, though, the interesting thing for this is Milwaukee is going to be coming into this. That will be their third game in 4 days or 5 days or something, because they played Fort Wayne. They're playing Wisconsin. They get a day off, and then they're going to play.
They're going to be 2 games off of a back-to-back games, because we mentioned the Purdue Fort Wayne game, but they also are playing Wisconsin Madison. That is gonna. The turnaround might be a little killer for them, especially against a Wright State team that has improved significantly defensively.
Yeah. And then another interesting subplot in this game is the much has been made of the young players in the league this year, and you're going to get two of the marquee young players going mano a mano in this one with Josh Dixon and Michael Cooper. So that's going to be a fun, sidelight to this game as well. So not that it's all about individual battles, but that is a fun individual battle to monitor.
That will be, and yeah, and unfortunately, we may not see Stevie Elam again this game. Hopefully, we will be seeing him a little later in conference play. So let's go on to the second 2 p.m. Eastern game, and this one's going to be IU Indy play in Northern Kentucky, and as the system goes to play Northern Kentucky's defense, which I mean, even the most prolific defenses probably don't want to do, and Northern Kentucky's is certainly one of them.
Yeah, I thought IU Indy, they had a nice game against Grand Canyon and then backed that up with a pretty handy defeat at the hands of Cleveland State. So I would think that Northern Kentucky coming off of a road win at Robert Morris, this style, Northern Kentucky's been able to implement their style better than IU Indy has. I don't want to see IU Indy get off to a 0-5 start in league play, but it doesn't feel like they're heading in the right direction right now. So this will be a very tough task for IU Indy, and but it'd be monumental for them to be able to compete and get a win to avoid going 0-5 to start league play.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things too here is that you have Northern Kentucky is probably, they won that game against Robert Morris, and they didn't shoot the 3-pointer very often in that game. When they did, they didn't do so great. IU Indy is a prolific 3-point shooting team, and they kind of have to because their three-point percentage is pretty low, and it was below 20% against Cleveland State. At a certain point in time, the 3-point shooting is going to have to get better, and I'm not sure it's going to happen here against Northern Kentucky.
I mean, the only thing you can say is that statistically, I didn't see the updated stats, but coming into the Robert Morris game, Northern Kentucky was getting lit up in conference play from deep. So maybe there's something there for IU Indy. But if you haven't been able to make threes consistently halfway through the season, I don't know that you're going to see some sort of organic growth in the ability of the players. So, it's going to be a tall task for IU Indy.
Indeed it will. All right, well, that moves us to the last game on New Year's Day, another 2 p.m. Eastern start. Green Bay is heading to Fort Wayne to play Purdue Fort Wayne. Last we saw Green Bay, things didn't go so well because it was a non-conference game and it was against Campbell. Purdue Fort Wayne, also last we saw them, didn't do so great either. So this is going to be a bounce back game for one of these teams. I don't know which one, I'll be honest with you. Yeah. And if you had told me this last year, I probably would have said, I think Purdue Fort Wayne will get a bounce back game, but this is not last year.
Man, this is two teams that have eaten a bar of soap right now. They just have a foul taste in their mouth, and one of them is going to get things righted coming off of both teams just got completely obliterated in their last game. So we'll see, which one of these two teams is going to be able to do that. Green Bay doesn't rebound particularly well. That probably lends to Fort Wayne because they're not very good at rebounding. So things that have hurt Fort Wayne were teams that out-rebounded them. Milwaukee crushed them on the glass. Detroit Mercy crushed them on the glass. Green Bay's probably not that kind of team. And Green Bay was just absolutely awful against Campbell at containing guard penetration. And so with 3 prolific ball handlers and scorers for Fort Wayne, that probably lends its hand to Fort Wayne. Both teams, 3-point shooting, when Green Bay is hot from 3, they can compete with more teams in the league. So really it's going to come down to, I can't see Green Bay all of a sudden becoming a better defensive team and a better rebounding team. I mean, they're better than they were last year, but I mean, I'm talking like elite level or even above passable level in Horizon League. So their best chance is to try to stay hot, get good shots. And like they scored 80 points against Campbell on 50% shooting. They just didn't offer any defense. So they can't let that happen against Purdue Fort Wayne.
Especially not against Purdue Fort Wayne, for sure. All right. Well, that leads us to Friday, January 2nd. We have one game. It's a 7 p.m. Eastern game, and it's Robert Morris is traveling to Callahan Hall to play Detroit Mercy, who probably had the win of the night on the against Youngstown State. We mentioned that Detroit Mercy has been really working on trying to prove that those first two wins in conference weren't a fluke. And their win against Youngstown State, and they were shorthanded in that game too. They had four players that didn't play at all.
On
They
the
proved it
road,
wasn't a fluke on the road,
on the
nonetheless. On a
nonetheless.
very tough Youngstown State crowd too. Absolutely. Now Robert Morris gets to go to Callahan Hall, which now may present problems for them. But at the end, Robert Morris definitely needs to get back in the win column, especially after that close loss against Northern Kentucky at home.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing because now what has really helped Detroit Mercy has been their rebounding and just their physical abilities. They've got some great athletic ability across most of their lineup. And Robert Morris, I think, can match up with that. Obviously, Robert Morris has been a very good rebounding team. Robert Morris has guys like Deshaun Good who are, very athletic. Excuse me. Al Vargas is, a quick little guard. So I feel like he can, kind of help to contain Orlando Lovejoy because Lovejoy really gets all his points off the dribble, penetrating. So it'll be a very interesting matchup. A win here for Detroit Mercy, though, puts them to 4-1 and a quarter of the way through league play really sends the message that, the championship might run through Detroit, which would be a message that only Robert McDonald was sending summertime. So this is a big opportunity for Detroit Mercy.
They're making me look smart. I enjoy that.
And I love that's a standalone game for the Horizon League because if you have nothing else to do on Friday night and you want to watch what is going to be a marquee game in the league, you don't have to figure out like, hey, do I watch my team or do I watch, parts of 2 or 3 games? It's the only Horizon League game in town on Friday and you can watch the whole thing. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. All right, before we get into the Saturday games, wanted to remind you once again to make your plans to be in Indy March 8th through the 10th for the 2026 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get, the remaining of our insights here at the Horizon Roundtable, visit horizonleague.com for championships information, merchandise, life in the league stories, golden hour content, and much more. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. And so let's go ahead and get into the games that are on Sunday, March 4th. And we start with the 2 p.m. Eastern game where Wright State is traveling to IU Indy to play the Jaguars. And given the way Wright State has been playing defense, this could be a big problem for IU Indy.
Yeah, I definitely love the way Wright State's playing. And I kind of, in one of the preview episodes, I was kind of talking about, the system versus a Wright State where you're going to have similar levels of athletes across all positions. And I definitely am concerned for IU Indy in this particular game because Wright State is playing great. The challenge for Wright State in something like this is when you go on the road, you're making a short little trip. It's probably, less than 2 hours from Dayton over to Indianapolis, and you're going against the bottom of the league. This is where you have to, be really locked in. You can't overlook anybody just because they might be scuffling record-wise. Even though they're not having the best season record-wise, IU Indies, they gave Grand Canyon a game. They have been in some other games. Like they're not to be overlooked, and they play a style that if you're not ready from the get-go, especially, the way they're denying all the passes on their full court press. If you're not ready from the get-go, you could get rattled, and it takes a while when you're in a game and you're rattled. So Wright State's going to need to be ready from the opening tip and not overlook anybody here.
Absolutely. I think to Wright State's advantage, and this was definitely their advantage in against Oakland, was the fact that Wright State has a lot more, seems to have a lot more up front than IU Indy does. That was kind of the issue IU Indy had against Cleveland State. And Wright State definitely, one of the things that Wright State was able to improve upon that they've been having issues with is getting more production out of Solomon Callahan. He was absolutely he was unconscious against Oakland, and he it almost seemed like he couldn't miss. Now, is he gonna shoot 6 for 7 again? Probably not. But even if he's shooting at a higher percentage than he has been since the beginning of the season, IU Indy might be in trouble.
So what's next on the calendar after the IU Indy game?
Oh, that's gonna be Cleveland State heading to Purdue Fort Wayne, and E. Cleveland. I know Cleveland State's you had a better defensive performance against IU Indy. Um, they are going to go up against probably one of the best backcourts in the conference, and that could be problematic for them.
Well, the one thing that could save Cleveland State in this game, they take a lot of threes. They actually hit a decent amount in conference play,
They
percentage
do.
wise.
Actually,
So
Cleveland State, to my surprise, has the highest, if I'm not mistaken, has the highest 3-point percentage in the conference right now. That actually surprises me.
yeah, so there's an opportunity because you know that Fort Wayne is going to get up a lot of threes. They've got their stretch big man and Max Nelson who basically only takes threes. You have their guards, had not takes a lot of threes. He wasn't very good at them against Milwaukee, but he takes a lot. I think it was like he took 10 of them and only made 2 or 3. But the point is they're going to get up a lot of threes. So Cleveland State has shown the ability to at least shoot with other teams, go toe to toe. So they haven't
Sure,
defended anybody other than they defended IU Indy in the system. So there's an opportunity here to at least
sure.
maybe outshoot Fort Wayne. But will it'll be very interesting for Fort Wayne because they're coming off of a tough loss. They have a home game, but kind of I think these games on New Year's Day at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, that's a tall task for the players. I mean, you're giving up
Sure.
your New Year's Eve. These guys are college kids. Like they want to party. They want to have a good time. And so it'll be interesting, is Fort Wayne coming off of a bad game and then a hangover game, or are they coming off of a bad game that they righted into a win and then they've got their momentum back when they face Cleveland State? If they've got their momentum back when they go against Cleveland State, I don't know that Cleveland State, as
Sure.
good as they've been shooting, can outshoot them.
Well, I think one of Cleveland State's saving graces is the fact that is actually that um, Josiah Harris is back, and they absolutely need him, especially on the glass. And just having him and Dan Nessa back, it certainly helped against IU Indy. And I think given how kind of thin Purdue Fort Wayne is, as far as their front court is concerned, I think that might come to their be to their advantage as well.
Yeah, for sure. Josiah Harris is a vacuum. He just sucks up every rebound. Like he had against IU Indy, I felt like the little bit I was watching, he got every rebound for a while there. And Fort Wayne doesn't have anybody that's consistently offered resistance to that kind of player.
Sure. Yeah. So moving on to the 3 p.m. Eastern game, we got Robert Morris. They're heading to the arena to play Oakland. So yeah, it looks like this is their Robert Morris's Michigan trip, and that Robert Morris Oakland game, I think it's going to be a really good one because from the top of the rotation to the bottom, I think Robert Morris and Oakland match up pretty well against each other.
Yeah, another team that's got enough big guys to give Oakland problems. And not just the two frontline guys in Hidakudis and Good, but you also have Josh Hill. And then you have like Brown, the guy that played at Missouri. He's not necessarily a classic
Kobe
big guy,
Brown,
but he's
yeah.
Kobe Brown. I mean, that's a guy you could probably throw up out there against, Hogue or Buru because he's big
Oh
and
yeah,
strong enough and athletic enough that you can match up a little bit. So this will be a great matchup. And depending on what happens to Robert Morris in that Detroit Mercy game, I mean, their season could be on the line
that's entirely
here.
true.
I don't want to like be overly dramatic, but if they don't get a win, they're only 2-2 in league play. If they don't win that Detroit Mercy game, they're going to be 2-3 heading into this game. And if they don't get the Oakland game, they come out of their 2-4 and 2 games behind or more behind the top of the league with only 14 games to play. Like everything you play for, the seeding that you play for, it's right in front of them right now because of they're getting
Absolutely.
they're getting the teams that they need to play to get some standing, get some separation in the standings.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the other things too that is I think it's going to factor into this is the 3-point shooting. Um, Oakland needs to make sure because Robert Morris isn't afraid to shoot the three. They're also not afraid to defend against the three either. And that might be problematic that might be potentially problematic for Oakland. Although to that point, if they are able to kind of better defend the glass and be better on the glass, I think Oakland might have the advantage here.
Yeah,
So,
Oakland, this is not like a classic Oakland, having a great 3-point shooter. Like, if you think about it in the past, they've had some guy like last year, they rotated through multiple guys, but you think of like guys like Jason Woodridge and Malcolm Christie, and who was the guy that Matt's family or hated, the guy that his family hated Matt. Oh, what was his name? The walk on turned like,
are you talking
shooter
about
for that.
uh you're not talking about Nassim Ashur who's
No, no,
out
no,
for the
no, no, no.
season,
He was there for like 5 years,
Oh, you're talking
and
about Blake Lampman. Okay, yeah,
yeah, yeah. They always have guys.
Michigan State graduate assistant, Blake Lampman, I might add.
There you go. But they've always had guys that like they just ran off the screens and let them shoot like what looked
Sure.
like crazy 3-point shots. They don't really have that guy anymore. So
No.
it takes an element away from Oakland, and that makes it easier to not easier to defend them because they're scoring boatloads of points and doing it very efficiently. But it takes an element that is hard to match up against. And I think of like you go back before they used to let Rashad Williams shoot any old shot he wanted to.
Oh, sure.
They've just had guys that were 3-point shooters and coming off of screens and all that action. And I don't see as much of that for them this year. So I think that helps Robert Morris in that they don't have to be so worried about helping a guy who's coming off of a staggered screen. They can maybe play a more traditional defense and take away some of those big guys that Oakland has.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're moving to the last game on Sunday, which is a 4 p.m. Eastern game. It's Youngstown State at Northern Kentucky. It seems like there's a lot of must-win games in this really early here in the conference slate because this is definitely a matchup where it just feels like one of the shouldn't this feels like. I know we're really early in the conference season, but this seems like a matchup that should be better reserved for like a semifinal game in the conference tournament because that's kind of what we're looking at here against these two teams. I mean, yes, we're talking about teams that have had some, pretty close losses. Northern Kentucky got the better of Robert Morris, whereas Youngstown State did not. So and again, I think this is a really good matchup. But that said, I think as far for Youngstown State, I think they might. I feel like they actually do have the advantage. I think they have the advantage of front, especially with Chris Carroll and Emmanuel Zorgval, along with with all that rotation. I feel like I feel like they have the advantage up front over Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, I would agree they have the advantage up front. The interesting thing is this is not your plotting Northern Kentucky offense. I mean, with
No.
Goretzka and O'Day, these guys are getting it up the court in a hurry and getting some,
Oh,
shots at the
absolutely.
rim very quickly. Even off of made baskets, they're scoring in transition. I mean, it's a different, vibe. And the thing that you might worry about with Youngstown is because they have a very athletic team as well. They've got some dynamic scorers. Is if they try to like outrun Northern Kentucky, I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. So it's going to be for
Sure.
Youngstown. You got to play your game. Their game is slow people down, play great defense, and then share the ball offensively. And they definitely can't get sucked into what is a Northern Kentucky team that's been playing a lot faster and
Yeah.
very effectively. Like I didn't update my numbers, but Northern Kentucky is 73rd in the country in tempo, and I never feel like they used to play that fast before. I felt like to match
Which is
their
funny. You're
zone.
right. They kind of haven't. This
Yeah,
is
I feel
kind
like
of
to match up with
first in
their
the Darren
zone.
Horn era.
Yeah, they played slow on offense, and then they played that slow defense. They were able to set that defense up and just grind you into oblivion. And now they're playing super fast on offense, and they're still very good defensively. But they are it's going to be an interesting for Youngstown to stay disciplined in what they want to do.
Mhm. All right. Well, Jim, we saved the best for last. Monday, January 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Milwaukee, Green Bay, rivalry game. Throw the records out, right?
This is the Brew Brawl, right? That's what we've settled on. A Brew Brawl. Brawl.
I mean, technically, I mean, officially, it's the I-43 rivalry, but yeah, let's go with Brew Brawl. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Mid Major Madness. We're never getting off of that, but yeah, I hate to say this, but I think Milwaukee might have the advantage here. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it, it's hard. It's really hard for me right now as a Green Bay fan. I'm gonna put my fan hat on again. When they lose games like they did at St. Thomas and at Wright State and at Campbell, and you look at the commonality of those, Wright State and Campbell, they had super athletic guys, lots of length. They made Green Bay turn the ball over. They out rebounded Green Bay by a wide margin. That's what Milwaukee does. So Green Bay needs to get their stuff together, because if you keep getting your butt kicked, it's not going to be a Brew Brawl or an I-43 rivalry. It's just going to be one team always beating the other team. And so Green Bay needs to get their stuff together here, and have a good account for themselves. I think
The
Green
good
Bay's
news
team
is
is
they'll
much
be at
improved.
home.
They'll be at home. It's I'll tell you what though. This actually does irk me a little bit. You have 4 Sunday games for the Horizon League, and you're playing this one on Monday night. Like, why couldn't they play this game on Sunday?
I mean,
what's
to be
going on?
fair, it is the only Monday. To be fair, it is the only Monday night game, and guess what? No football to compete with. I honestly, I think that's not a terrible idea.
It's not terrible, but I think you're going to see a sparse crowd from Green Bay, especially if they don't do well against Fort Wayne. There's going to be no momentum for people to go to the game. But with this particular game, the one thing that can really help you when you do play against Milwaukee, they are a team that's going to make mistakes. A guy like Amar Aguilar can shoot you in or out of a game.
Sure.
They are a team that is going to give up some 3-pointers. Green Bay hasn't been great shooting from 3, but they have guys like Preston Riedinger and Marcus Hall and Caden Wilkins who can knock down 3-pointers. So there's an opportunity to, even though Green Bay is going to be outsized and be probably at every position be less athletic, they still can play, their style. And when Green Bay plays their style of sharing the ball, it actually is very pretty to watch. And they kind of pick better teams apart just through really good execution and things that are hard to guard. But when they don't defend, then all of a sudden their offense, tends to go into a shell too.
Sure. All right, well, that wraps it up for this edition of Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition. Tune in next week. Once again, we're going to be recording on Tuesday, so be on the lookout for that on Tuesday night, January 6th. Until then, HorizonRoundtable.com, where you can find all previous episodes of this podcast and the regular podcast, as well as our articles. Until next week, then, thank you all for listening.